Tonight, government moves to bind all future governments to the implementation of free SHS policy as Education Ministry readies to present the free senior high school bill to Parliament 6 months before the expiration of Akufo-Addo's presidency.
This free SHS bill, if we consider as a house, what that means is that it becomes mandatory for government to implement this. Unless it is repealed, no government would have the right to say, I am not going to enforce free SHS.
But will the opposition NDC back a law making the free SHS policy in its current form compulsory? We have details. And Top Story is always brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies. Tonight is President Akufo-Addo's overriding flagship policy, and with just 6 months for his presidency to expire, he appears determined to safeguard his free senior high school legacy. The president has directed the education minister to submit a bill to Parliament that will have the force of law when passed, making it compulsory for all successive governments to implement the policy in its current form. The Majority Leader Alexander Afenyomarkin announced at a press briefing today ahead of Parliament's resumption that the bill is ready for the presentation by the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum. According to him, the move is to prevent the attempt by any government to abort the policy.
The Minister of Education will present the free SHS bill to Parliament. You know, the Chapter 5 of the Constitution provides some aspirational indicatives. Those are not justiciable. But once, by policy of government, an aspiration, as envisaged by the Constitution, is put into action, then to make it justiciable, you enact. In other words, there are provisions in the Constitution that you cannot enforce. You cannot claim rights to those provisions. The fact that they are there does not mean that you can apply to the court to enforce those rights. They are merely, should I enforce certain rights and give rights and take certain actions. So I think that this free SHS bill, if we consider as a house, what that means is that it becomes mandatory for government to implement this. Unless it is repealed, no government would have the right to say, I am not going to enforce free SHS, because now there's a law. So if you fail, a citizen can apply to the court as his bona fide, and the court would exact justice in that citizen's favor. So that is the good news about this bill.
Well, so let me bring in my colleague Isaac Kofi, who is with our research desk here at Joy News. Kofi, let's start with enrollment statistics. What has changed after the implementation?
Well, so before the implementation, 2016-2017, the total enrollment figure was 308,777. Now, when it was first, the free SHS program was first, introduced in 2017-2018 academic year, we saw the enrollment figure move from that 308,000 to now over 362,000. And from there, we've seen an average more than 400,000. According to the president and the education minister, this very academic year, we've had the highest enrollment, which is somewhere around 503,000, since the inception of the free SHS program, Kojo. Now,
the policy definitely needs money to run. How much exactly has been allocated since 2017?
Well, so between 2017 and 2024, we've been digging, the finance ministry's budget and the country's budget, and then also the Ministry of Education's program-based budget to look at the total amount allocated for the free SHS program. And between 2017 and 2024, we can say that close to, 16 billion Ghana cedis. The actual amount is 15.65 billion Ghana cedis has been allocated to the program since it was introduced in 2017. 400 million Ghana cedis in 2017, 1.14 billion Ghana cedis in 2018, 1.68 billion Ghana cedis in 2019, and we saw it rise to somewhere 2.42 billion in 2020, and a significant decline in 2021 to 1.97, and now we are still hovering above 2.76 billion Ghana cedis. Kojo.
So those are the allocations, but we know there's difference between allocations and actual expenditure. What is the data pointing to?
Well, so it is interesting when you decide to compare the allocation to the actual. So how much was budgeted versus how much was actually expended. You could see that the gap is widening. If you start from 2019, government has not been able to meet the actual, the budgeted amount, if you compare that to the expenditure. So from between 2017, for instance, a total amount of 400 million Ghana cedis was allocated. Government ended up spending more than that. They spent 480 million Ghana cedis. In 2018, some 1.13 billion was allocated. Government spent 1.137 billion Ghana cedis. And since 2019, whatever government allocates, they are not able to meet the expenditure, and the gap keeps widening. 2019, for instance, they budgeted 1.68 billion Ghana cedis. They were only able to expend 1.28 billion. 2020, they budgeted 2.4 billion. They spent only 1.4. Now let's look at it in percentage terms so that we can really appreciate it. So in 2017, 2018, government budgeted an amount, they spent more than that. They spent 120% of what they budgeted for. So it means they spent more than they allocated. Now in 2018, they were able to provide funds for only 99% of what they actually budgeted. In 2019, 2020, Kojo, they were only able to, spend, cater for just 76% of what they budgeted for. And this has been on the decline since 2019. 58% in 2020, and now we are talking about 51% in the 2021-2022 academic year, Kojo.
Interesting there. Grateful to you. Let's bring in, Kofi Asare, who is the executive director of the Africa Education Watch. Kofi, I'm grateful that you could join us here. Now, if you look at what is happening now, would we say? Question is a law or what is indeed needed to make the binding or the implementation of free SHS binding on all successive government? Hello, Kofi.
Hi, good evening, and good evening to your church audience. Yes, I believe that a law is good to ensure that the free senior high school is binding on successive government. Not only that, but also to ensure that in implementing the free senior high school policy, there is the requisite legal and policy backing to ensure that adequate budgetary allocations are made, implementation arrangements, properly institutionalized in law to ensure a coherent and effective implementation of such an important program. So yes, having it enshrined in law is the right thing to do. However, if I pick the pre-tertiary education law, which the government passed in 2020, and I look at Section 3, I see free senior high school caption there. The Pre-Tertiary Education Act, which is Act 1049, which was passed sometime in December 2020, under Section 3. Section 2 is free compulsory basic education. And let me just explain briefly that pre-tertiary simply means the level of our education below tertiary. And so if you look at the education system, it starts from below our preschool, we have a kindergarten, we have primary, we have junior high school, that is basic, and then secondary. And so pre-tertiary constitutes this portion of our system. And so the law provides under Section 2 for free compulsory universal basic education. And in Section 3, the law provides for free secondary education. And it simply says that secondary education in its different forms, including TVET, shall be free and accessible to all eligible candidates. So, yes, it is good to have a free senior high school enshrined in law, but I see free senior high school already captured in the pre-tertiary education law under Section 3.
And again, if you look at the Article 25 1B of the 1992 Constitution, that secondary education in its different forms, including technical and vocational education, shall be made generally available and accessible to all by every appropriate means, and in particular by the progressive introduction of free education. So, and you've also made reference to that particular law. If this also happens, aren't we duplicating the law for the same thing?
Yeah. So that's why the question I keep asking myself is, what different thing are we going to say in the law, in the free senior high school law? Because the pre-tertiary education law outlines and reinforces the constitutional right to free basic education, and that's same for Article 25 provision in the Constitution for free secondary education under its Section 3. It goes ahead and provides the management framework for managing pre-tertiary education through GES and everything. So I'm still wondering what will be in a separate free senior high school law. And bear in mind that, we've been implementing free basic education since 2005, almost 19 years ago. We still don't have a free basic education law. I've not even set my eyes on a free basic education policy before. But this is something we've been calling for, a free basic education policy. But at least we've seen a free senior high school policy, and we've seen free senior high school being captured in law, in the pre-tertiary education law, just as basic education has been captured. So I'm not too clear in my mind what a separate, free senior high school law will contain, different from what is already in the Pre-Tertiary Education Act, which was passed by under this government in December of 2020.
All right, let me bring in Angel Carbono here. He is president of NAGROT, and he joins this conversation via Zoom. Grateful to you for joining us, Mr. Carbono. For you, should it be compulsory for us to say we want to bind successive government to the implementation of free senior high school? Mustn't it be open for people or parties to decide whether we want to continue or not?
Kojo, good evening, and indulge me just 1 minute to help unwind the politicking in this whole thing. As Kofi is indicated to you, free senior high school is already enshrined in law. Let us also get something clear, that there are laws in the Constitution that are not justiciable. What I mean is, there are aspects of the Constitution that you cannot take a government to court for not implementing. So I think that we are in a political season, and somebody wants to beat the dry ground for us to get some dust into our nostrils.
But that's the point the majority. That's the point the majority leader makes, that you have to get a law that someone can take a government on for refusing to implement, and that's the motive behind this.
And the question will be to what effect? The question will be to what effect? Look, you see, I have not heard anybody, civil society, media, unions, political organization. I've not heard anybody condemning the free senior high school, and I've also not heard anyone boldly come to say that the free senior high school should be abolished. What I've heard people say is to critique the functionality of the free senior high school as it is now, and question whether resources are adequately and timeously being sent to the institutions for effective teaching and learning to take place. That is where the problem is. And then the models that are being used, the centralization of distributing food items and resource acquisition and distribution, whether it is effective the way it is, the raising of resources, whether the resources is dedicated from government coffers, and so on and so forth. These are the issues that one will want to look at. And for us to be told right now that it is going to Parliament to see whether the opposition in Parliament is going to raise an objection to it so that we create a political cacophony once again on a very important issue, begs the salient issues that are being raised on daily basis. For me, the amount of money your colleague just mentioned to you, ask yourself, what percentage of that money is going to feeding? And what percentage of that money is going into the provision of teaching and learning materials? What percentage of that money goes into infrastructural development and maintenance? These are the questions that we have to ask. Whether there is fairness for a group of students in this country to be fed for free, as against people who even pay for their transportation from home, not to be fed for free in an environment where we seek equality. Whether the resource materials in the schools currently reflect the objective that we want to achieve by way of teaching and learning. Whether the teachers who teach in those schools are properly motivated to contribute their all in all to enhance the wherewithal of our children in our schools. So it is not the announcement of a name. It is to see what is in that name and how are we engaging in an activity so that we function in such a manner that when a child leaves home and goes to school, the child comes back as a worthy citizen of our country.
Okay.
That is what we should be talking about.
Let me bring in Peter Nochu Kojo, who is a ranking member on government, on Parliament Education Committee. For you, I mean, isn't it good for us to legislate this policy such that then we could determine which of the elements of the cost are free and which of the cost require parent to play a role to ensure that there is a holistic implementation of this policy?
Thank you very much, and good evening to you and your listeners. Let me begin by saying that nobody, as far as I know, the NDC has never condemned the free senior high school. We started it on the progressive introduction approach in 2015. Now, our concern has been the manner in which it was introduced in 2017. So there are problems that we have outlined, problems that need to be solved so that we can have quality secondary education in this country. Passing a law to make it binding on any other government to make sure that the program continues, it's neither here nor there. Now, if you go to Article 25, 1B, it is there. The secondary education is different forms, including technical and vocational education, shall be made available and accessible to everybody, and then made free. So, whether you pass a law or not, it has started, and no government will morally come and change it. Now, the president is only trying to run away from the realities and the challenges and wanting to change the discourse. So I feel the failure of government to make sure that the challenges that are bedeviling the free senior high school are given the necessary attention. Attention is being divided now, or whatever it is, to make Ghanaians feel and talk about passing a law. That it will seem as if the law comes to Parliament and minority were against the law, then minority will be christened to be against the free senior high school. There are a lot of challenges, we know. Currently, feeding is a major problem in the free senior high school. Government is owing millions and hundreds of millions of cedis to food suppliers. Government is owing millions of cedis to contractors who put up infrastructure so many years now. So for me, a law is not needed. It is already in the Constitution. And who says that if this government passes a law, another government comes tomorrow, cannot amend that law? Laws passed by Parliament are not entrenched. So anybody can come and review or amend any law that is passed by a previous government.
So if they bring it to Parliament today, minority won't support it.
I am not saying so. It depends on what they are bringing. But I am saying that it is not necessary. It's just a waste of government business and parliamentary business time, because it is already in the Constitution and it is being implemented. We are diverting attention instead of meeting the needs of this secondary school free SHS program.
Okay.
The voted amount, so they will tell you they have spent so and so amount of billions of cedis, but you don't see what is happening on the ground.
So what should be in this law?
With weavers.
So what should be in this law to get the minority to back it, that indeed yes, this should pass?
Well, I have not seen the draft, so I will not be able to comment on any aspect of it now. But what I am saying and what we believe and what I think Ghanaians want is we want quality free secondary education, not what is being provided now. So they should think of what to do to improve upon the conditions in the various senior high schools, rather than passing a law. If you pass a law and you don't implement it, you don't give the facilities that they need, what have you done? You have not achieved anything.
Okay, let me bring in Kofi Asare again. So Kofi, I mean, the question about won't the law help us specify the roles of all stakeholders in the sector, such that we won't say, well, should parents pay or should parents not pay? The law can specify that, isn't it?
I don't think it's necessary. Role assignments, cost sharing arrangements, if any, those are matters of policy. The Free Senior High School has a policy document. Okay, and so every policy document is subject to review. I mean, formatively as the policy undergoes implementation. And so one would expect that if there are any changes in stakeholder role assignments, cost sharing, and other operational changes that needs to be done to improve the implementation of the policy, it can be done by reviewing the policy. But these are not legal law issues. I'm saying that we've been running free basic education in this country for 19 years. There is no free basic education law. I haven't even set my eyes on a free basic education policy. And I'm saying that you don't need that law to implement free secondary education. Fortunately for us, we have free basic education and free secondary education already enshrined in the Constitution and also in the pre-tertiary education law. So provision is made to operationalize 25(1) and then 38(2), which is F³ and then also Free Senior High School in the Constitution. So I'm wondering the reason why we need another Free Senior High School law when we've been running basic education for 19 years and no one is calling for free basic education law. But we are implementing free basic education. You understand? So for me, if we have to count the top 10 major issues relating to the Free Senior High School program, the law, a Free Senior High School law wouldn't come. It wouldn't be in the top 10. So I think there are many priorities that the government must focus on instead of this law thing. For me, the law has only legacy capital. I mean, it's an issue of legacy, but it's not necessarily an expedient or necessary thing at this point. Or at any point will it be necessary in implementing the Free Senior High School program, because Free Senior High School is already in the pre-tertiary education law, which this government passed in 2020.
So Angel, I mean, what must government concern itself with now? If you say, I mean, a law is not what is needed now. What is needed?
What is needed is to identify the challenges in the implementation of the free senior high school program. And I've mentioned some of the challenges. One major challenge is the scale in terms of resource allocation tilting heavily in favor of feeding against the provision of physical infrastructure and also teaching and learning materials, creating the congenial environment for teaching and learning to take place. And if we continue like this, we are pushing money to feed children, to be in school, and we are compromising the provision of what is necessary for the purpose for which the child is in school, that is teaching and learning. So this is something that we have to look at. Number two, government should juxtapose its expenditure vis-a-vis its financial situation and question itself. Why is it that resources are not released adequately and timeously? Sometimes resources even ought to be released before school reopens, so that we don't have the situation where heads of schools will be attempting to close down schools just because food and materials are not available. That is why we as a union, we call for a review. Review in the English dictionary does not have any relationship with counsel. Review is to look at the situation and see what ingredients can be introduced to make the situation stronger and better. And that is what I expect government to be looking at.
Okay, thank you very much, Angel Kagbonu. He is president for NAGRA. So, Peter Nochukoto. So you've okay. I think I've lost Peter Nochu on the line.
No, I'm on the line.
Okay, Peter. So
yeah.
I mean, the message that you as a member of parliament you have for parliamentarians or government is, do not worry yourself with any law. Rather concentrate on fixing the problems, right?
Exactly so. Because what is important and what is needed is the release of funds to meet the day-to-day administration of the schools. As we speak now, WIC is unable or is finding it very difficult to organize this year's WASE because government is owing WIC almost 200 million Ghana cedis. And you want to come and pass a law. Would the passing of the law give money to WIC to organize the WASE examinations? No. So we should rather think of how do we mobilize resources for the various agencies under the Ministry of Education that are connected with the implementation or the delivery of the free senior high school program, so that we can have quality education at the secondary school. That is what is important.
But your committee has a role in this. How will you ensure that, I mean, what you expect to happen should rather happen than a law that you think is not necessary?
We have been speaking as a committee, we have been speaking as a minority, and if we don't talk, then money will not be released to so and so agency to carry out its functions. All along, food suppliers, publishers have been coming to the leadership of the committee, do this for us, do that for us, before they are giving money. It is not good, you see. So it's making the work difficult for school heads of the senior high schools. Only that they cannot talk. Yeah.
All right. So that's quite interesting. We'll be watching how this particular matter plays out. I'm grateful to you for joining us. Peter Nochukoto is the ranking member on the Education Committee. Angel Carbon is president of NAGRAT, and Kofi Asare is executive director of the Africa Education Watch. This has been Top Story. Up next is Newsnight.
I get them, I send them.
I get them.
I pay them.
Telesale cash. I get them. I take them. Telesale cash.
You get them.
I send them. Telesale cash.
I send them. You get them.
Telesale cash.
I get them.
I buy them. I take them.
I pay them. I send them.
Telesale cash. Telecel Cash.
Experience the ultimate convenience of sending money on Telecel Cash. Sending money from Telecel Cash to Telecel Cash is free. You can also make payments to merchants on all networks. Enjoy best value and total security with Telecel Cash.
Telecel, connecting energies.
Attention all drivers in Accra. The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority DVLA Accra Regional Office, currently at 37, is on the move. Starting Monday, June 10, 2024, find us at our new location in Hachu, right on the Bosha Road. Do you need a DVLA service? Make your way to the new office and let us continue to serve you with the utmost care. DVLA, your safety, our concern.
And in the next 60 minutes here on Newsnight, Attorney General face-off with lawyers for minority leader as he objects to attempts to tender in evidence secretly recorded call between himself and a third accused person, Richard Jakba, in ambulance trial.
AG was not heard on that tape suggesting that the third accused person should implicate the first accused. So that is settled.
How can this defense of bad faith avail the accused persons?
Also tonight we'll be in Parliament, where the Speaker and the majority have both called for collaboration in the House as they resume sitting today, as the minority threatens to boycott parliamentary business with more than 24 bills and 11 statutory reports to be considered.
You don't have to be a magician. He cannot be at court and at the same time perform his duties as this. This is exactly what we are talking about. There's absolutely no reason why these hearings cannot be scheduled. Nobody is saying he won't go to court.
Plus, we have details on impending shake-up in Parliament.
An intelligence committee, which would be separate in form and shape compared to the previous committee of Interior and Defense. Even Finance Committee we're now going to have the Finance Committee and Economy Committee.
Also tonight, residents of Bole in Savannah region impose curfew on themselves as a string of killings terrorize the community, sparking widespread fear and anxiety.
Who would like to be the next person to me, and then that's why the whole town after 8:30 the movement has ceased.
Because of that, we just impose self-curfew on ourselves.
And later here on Newsnight, on the NSMQ train, after a decade of failed attempts, Accra Girls Senior High School has finally emerged as winners in the National Science and Maths Quiz regional competition.
And it's very hot, outrageous, and for that matter, we have won this battle, and no matter how gigantic or huge you are, we can exceed your potentials.
And in business, Ghana's inflation to end 2024 at 20.9%. We have details from the 2024 African Development Bank Economic Outlook.
And in sports, we hear from Black Stars head Kojo, who is calling on Ghanaians to be patient with the Black Stars' young players, as they will need time to harmonize and work together.
And I'll take your views and comments all here on News 9055 1111997. And I want to take it to the courts now because the Attorney General today faced off with lawyers for the minority leader, Keisla Forcing, as he objected to attempts to tender in evidence a secretly recorded call between himself and a third accused person, Richard Jakpa, in the ambulance trial. My colleague, Latif Idrisu, is with me in the studio with more on this. It must have been a sight to behold, indeed, Latif, in court to see the Attorney General himself accused of a lot of things in the last 2 weeks. Make a case why the court should not admit this recording in evidence.
Yeah, and so let's begin with the fact that today the Attorney General was not in court to listen to the audio tape between himself and Richard Jakpa. He was represented by the Deputy Attorney General and other representatives from the court. The AG seek to object to an application by lawyers for Dr. Keisla Forcing, who want to turn into evidence the audio recording between Richard Jakpa and Godfred Yeboah-Damin. If you recall, last week, the court had made a ruling on the audio recording, but it was specifically with regards to the mistrial application filed by Dr. Keisla Forcing and Richard Jakpa. So the judge had admitted into evidence the audio recording, but it was purposely to cure the mistrial application filed by Richard Jakpa and Keisla Forcing. And so it was admitted into evidence. Today, they seek to re-enter the same audio recording into evidence. This time, they want it to be part of the substance of the ongoing trial, which has to do with Dr. Keisla Forcing willfully causing financial loss to the state. The argument of Aziz Bamba is that in the audio you would hear Richard Jakpa and Godfred Damin talking about the LC when the LC was supposed to have been issued, and also the contract between the government of Ghana and Big C, which Richard Jakpa, we know, is an agent. So that was the basis for which the lawyers for Dr. Keisla Forcing sought to put into evidence the audio recording. The Attorney General disputed that and asked the court to reject that application by Dr. Keisla Forcing's lawyer because, according to the Attorney General, the lawyers have failed to lay down the necessary foundation for which purpose this audio recording would be admitted into evidence and going forward to form part of the substantive issue that is sitting before the court. That is one. They also mentioned that the audio recording in itself had breached the right to privacy, that right of the Attorney General, and so the court should not take that into evidence. On his part, Aziz Bamba made the argument that statement by the lawyers for or the Attorney General is frivolous, and so wanted the court to disregard that. After the trial or the hearing today, we engaged the Deputy Attorney General, who said that the court is already clear when it comes to this audio, and that in the ruling with regards to the mistrial, the court settled the matter once and for all. And so for the lawyers to attempt to yet again tender it into evidence is nothing but red herring.
That AG was not heard on that tape suggesting that the third accused person should implicate the first accused. So that is settled, sealed. And so today what they are seeking is to tender the same tape. So we say, fine, if you want to tender, you must show that it is relevant to the issues we are going to contest in this matter. And that's why we demonstrated that it is not relevant so far as the determination of whether they are guilty or not guilty or the issues involved are concerned. So that's the difference.
On his part, the communication.
And that there is Alfred Yeboah, who was obviously in court today. And we've seen a statement from the minority side today, a warning Parliament that they will not actually be attending until they are done on a daily basis with what is happening in the court, because the minority leader is being tried.
Yeah, so that came up strongly in open court after the objection and counter-objection by the prosecution and lawyers for Dr. Keisla Forcing. The judge made reference to a letter she had received from counsel for Dr. Keisla Forcing to the effect that Dr. Forcing had to be in Parliament today because, as we know now, Parliament has reconvened. So his lawyers I mean, Dr. Keselato Forsen's lawyers had written to the sitting judge to inform her that Dr. Keselato Forsen has to be in Parliament today because he's the leader of the minority in Parliament. According to the judge, her only response to that letter, which was sent to her by lawyers for Dr. Atuforsen, was that, quote and unquote, I will sit. So that was the response she gave to the letter that came from lawyers for Dr. Keselato Forsen. And so Dr. Atuforsen himself had to be in court today. So he was in court, supported by some members of the minority in Parliament, including Sam George, who I saw, and I think 3 other members of Parliament from the minority side came there to show their support to the minority leader.
And this was happening on the day when Parliament resumed. And we were expecting a lot to happen today, of course, laying the foundation for what was going to happen in this particular session of Parliament. But this became an issue in Parliament itself. As you know, the minority members, some of them were in court. You saw them there. My colleague, James Aveji, was in Parliament, where this has been a subject for both the minority side and the majority side. He joins me on the line right now. And James, the minority chief whip was very clear on this matter when you spoke to him, was he not?
Exactly, Evans. He was specific that they, the minority, from today, and they have set the precedent with today's sitting, would not take part in any proceedings on the ground of Parliament anytime the minority leader goes to court on the case at hand. In fact, this morning, the minority leader was supposed to be part of leadership to address the media before the House seat, but he was absent. We were told he was in court. And just before midday, they called a press conference and made it known that this is what it will be moving forward. We can listen to Honorable Boja on the exact reason why the attempt they have made that has been denied and why they think that this is the way to go.
Of course, will only be available for the business of Parliament after proceedings of the court have ended on the days scheduled for the hearing of the ongoing ambulance case trial. You don't have to be a magician. He cannot be at court and at the same time perform his duties as this. This is exactly what we are talking about. There's absolutely no reason why these hearings cannot be scheduled. Nobody is saying he won't go to court. And you know, there are a number of times the leader has, we have followed him to court. It is only on the occasions that demand his presence to make the work of the House continue. And the trial judge will not accept this reasonable request. That is what we are talking about. Parliamentary Service Board meeting. So we are talking about specific roles that the leader must play. And on record, we have always attended to business on the floor. So there's no question about us boycotting our responsibilities as members of Parliament. We have always carried out that. You'll notice that there are days he went to Parliament, he went to court, and even came back and sat at the front to do business. So that question is not even, it's not factual that we have boycotted any business. We are talking about a concern of a judge consistently denying reasonable request for the minority leader to perform his duties as the leader of the minority in Parliament. And we think this is not right.
And we'll get the minority to talk to, just to expand on this. And this is all happening on a day when Parliament resumed. It set the stage for what is promising to be another very controversial sitting of the House tomorrow. We're looking forward to that. James is still with me. James, did the majority side respond to this?
Yes, Evans, although he didn't mention that specifically, but in his address to the House, he mentioned that there needed to be some unity among the two parties. He he stated that they have almost 17 bills to look at in this session of Parliament before they rise, and a lot of committee reports they needed to look at. And so the best way to go is for the two sides of the House to remain united to get these jobs done before they rise. And so, although he wasn't specific mentioning this, he made a point that there needed to be unity between the two parties to get the job done, Evans.
Now, let's talk about Parliament itself. They resumed today, and both sides have been talking. Bring us up to speed on what happened today. As the minority obviously been serving notice, they may be boycotting the sittings today. Both leaders of the House have also been giving their own welcome addresses and urging collaboration nonetheless.
Yes, Evan. So, when the House started sitting, before they even started sitting, I was on the lookout to see whether the minority would be in the House, and quite a number of them came. And in fact, when you do a head count, the minority members were even more than those on the majority. The minority leader, Kesala Tuforsin, in his address, pointed out issues about the disturbances, the violence we have witnessed at some registration centers across the country during the EC's limited registration exercise, and what happened at Ewutu Senya just this weekend, where the parliamentary candidate was arrested over some alleged possession of firearms, amongst others. These are the things he wants the EC to be summoned to the House to come and answer some questions on why they would sit by for some of these things to happen at their offices.
These terrible decisions have just been repeated by the Electoral Commission in just ended voter registration, as well as the ongoing vote transfer exercise. Mr. Speaker, the Electoral Commission is making a simple electoral process very cumbersome, frustrating, expensive, Mr. Speaker, burdensome. These developments do not inspire hope in our electoral process. Rather, they give people and some political parties cause to question the integrity of the processes ahead of the 2024 general election. It is therefore imperative for Parliament to call the Electoral Commission to order and to save the democracy that we have always protected. Mr. Speaker, the NDC Minority Caucus want to use this forum to demand an urgent committee of the whole meeting with the Electoral Commission and to iron out these concerns before, Mr. Speaker, it is too late.
And he also has something to say about this 5G contract, plus what he's talking now about this cost of living crisis.
Exactly, Evan. So on the 5G, you remember that last week the majority held a press conference addressing some of this issue. The majority at the time limited the discussion about the call of minority calling for most bills to be brought to the floor of Parliament. The majority limited that discussion to the SML deal, that they believe the deal is not an international deal and cannot come to the floor of Parliament. Today, the minority brought the 5G deal into question. They say that looking at the nature of that deal, it needed to be brought to the floor of Parliament to be looked at. Then some other members of the minority, especially the MP for Bole, Honorable Yusuf Suleimana, raised the issue about some youth employment agents, first youth employed with a youth employment agency, have in the past few months not received their salary, and why government needed to step up to address those challenges in this dire economy.
Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, the President granted executive approval for the Sweetheart deal on the 22nd of August 2023, barely 1 week after the company was incorporated on the 16th of August 2023. This arrangement, Mr. Speaker, are not transparent, was awarded without any competitive process whatsoever, and has not been subjected to parliamentary approval as required by Section 33 of the Public Financial Management Act 921, 2016. While conservative estimates suggest that the government could have raised between $250 million to $500 million upfront, this government is giving our national asset away at a paltry $6.25 million and 1% annual revenue per annum over a period of 10 years on a work and pay basis. The NDC minority has therefore flagged this transaction, Mr. Speaker, for further scrutiny, and we urge the government to do what is right and present the document before us for us to do justice with it before the agreement is actually signed. In all honesty, the chroma is shit. Times are very hard and Ghanaians are really suffering. Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm curious. I want to ask, What has happened to the billions of Ghana cedis approved by this House for the government's so-called flagship program, Planting for Food and Jobs? Where is the food and where are the jobs? Right, Honorable Speaker. Where are they planting for? Are they planting for high food inflation or they are planting for joblessness? Mr. Speaker, we are back.
And James, there's been a lot of talk about an impending shakeup at the committee level, particularly on the side of the majority, but also the minority. But we got a bit of an insight into what might happen on the majority side today when the majority leader spoke to you.
Yes, Evan. So that's, according to the majority leader, is in accordance with the new standing orders of Parliament that has been in implementation since February this year. He said that the standing order enjoins them to reconstitute some committees of the House at the beginning of every session, and that is exactly what they are going to do. He made mention of two key committees, Finance Committee as well as the Defense Committee, and especially the Finance Committee. He talks about the fact that it could be split into two, and the reason behind why they had to be split into two.
We used to have a Committee of Defense and Interior. Now we're going to have an Intelligence Committee, which would be separate in form and shape compared to the previous Committee of Interior and Defense, which combined everything. Now we're going to have a Defense Committee, and even Finance Committee we're now going to have the Finance Committee and Economy Committee and all. So these changes will require the realignment and then reconstitution of these committees. The essence of it is to help MPs focus on key subject areas and to also prepare themselves for the task.
And that there is the majority leader who has been addressing a press conference today. Thankfully, we can speak now to the deputy minority leader who joins us right now, Emmanuel Amako-Fibwa. Thank you, sir, for your time here on the Newsnight. Talking about the changes that we are anticipating on the majority side when it comes to these committees. Is this the same on your side also, that we can also expect some changes at the committee level?
Yeah, we've been working on these changes, and it is really naturally coming out of the new standing orders that have brought in new committees. Necessarily required that we restructure committee members, and so we are working on that. Yes.
And today I saw a statement from the minority side about your leader, Case Lato Forcing, and how that will affect your commitment to the House, and that you would focus on his trial days when the case is called before you come to the House. Considering how urgent this time is for Parliament, and considering that you are just 6 months away from being dissolved, that definitely is going to affect the parliamentary business, would it not?
Well, let me say clearly that we, in the minority side, believe that Honorable Ato Forson is innocent of all of those charges. And we believe that the reason he's in court is because of his leadership role in really bringing out issues, whether it was the e-levy, whether it was the alarm he blew on the haircuts by government, and all the critical issues that he has brought. And we say that Ghana is where we are with the economy and our financial mess because of the mismanagement of this government. And we are very sure that at each stage, Honorable Ato Forson, as the ranking member on finance, led the way in doing that. And because of that, he has been a target. And that's why he's in court. In fact, the recent revelations and the reported attempts by the Attorney General to really get the third accused and to basically toe his line confirms our so it's very, very clear why Honorable Ato Forson is in court. In having said that, the lawyers we know have tried to make sure that the judge was very clear that the Honorable Ato Forson has constitutional responsibilities, especially, for example, on a day like today where he was required to give a resumption speech, have interviews on what is at stake for Parliament. and the refusal by the High Court judge to basically allow him to do that and require that he had to be in Parliament. I mean, it would be unconscionable for members of the minority to pretend that this is fair on our leader and allow him to go to court alone. There's no way we will do that. And so what we've stated is very clear. Every time he's going to court, we will join him in court and we'll come back to do the people's business after court, like we did today. And so that's what we'll do.
From what I'm hearing from you, this goes beyond solidarizing with him. This is your way of objecting to the court's decision to say that you have to be here when you're called.
Now, I've just explained to you that we do not believe that when a leader is mandated by the Constitution to perform those duties, he should be prevented from doing that. We for example, when you hear in open court, it just says he won't even take, he will not take a letter from the speaker, and that he will prefer the lawyers to basically plead on Atufor's behalf. And when they do, he turns them down under the circumstances I've described. We think that's really very unfortunate. But having said that, I won't even go into the court matters. But what we know is that we are very convinced that he's an innocent man. He needs our support. And the reason he's in court is because of his firmness and the stance he took in leading this effort. And as a minority leader, we have a responsibility to make sure he knows that we understand the role he has played and we are behind him. We know he's innocent and he's going to come out innocent.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why we solidarize with him at all times.
Yeah, I mean,
when he goes to court. But we'll come back, and obviously, you know that it's not every day that he'll be in court. But when he's in court, we'll be with him, and then we'll come back to do the people's business.
Yeah, you say you'll be with him, but we're in court today. Not all minority members were in court to solidarize with him. Many of them were nowhere near the court today.
Oh, well, you don't necessarily need to fit in that small room. We have so many of the members who were in the premise of Parliament. Others were around. And so I think it's a position we've taken, and we'll stick to it.
And on the key issues that you expect to come before the House today, and one of them announced by the majority leader is that the Education Minister is going to come before the House with a bill on the free SHS that the government's aim is to pass into law that will bind successive governments. Can they expect cooperation on the key issues that is expected to come before you, including the mid-year budget review?
Well, I would not comment on things that are not before us. I don't even know the details. This is something that the majority had proposed. We'll wait to see what is before us. But the people of Ghana can be sure. And as the minority leader stated, we are very committed to making sure that our responsibility to at all times protect the interests of the people of Ghana will be done.
And also, it has been mooted by your side on the Attorney General that you'll be moving a motion of censure on him. Are we going to see that play out now that Parliament has resumed?
We are still working on a lot of the things we'll do. We strongly believe that the Attorney General's behavior must be punished. We believe that he was completely wrong in what he did, and we will make sure that all the parliamentary tools available to members of parliament are brought to bear.
Thank you very much. That there is Emmanuel Amakofi-Boy, is a deputy minority leader there. So live here on News Night is on Joy 99.7 FM. You want to join us with your thoughts? 055-11-11997. I'll be sharing that with the rest of the world right after business with James Ashen. Hello, James.
Evans, coming up in business, Ghana's inflation to end 2024 at 20.9%. We have details from the 2024 African Development Bank Economic Outlook, and new report by the Third World Network Africa shows Planting for Food and Jobs program not achieving its targeted result due to low credit opportunities. Business News on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Syntex Tanks, and Pepsodent Charcoal and Herbal.
Hey, so as for you, every day you are just pressing your phone. Why? Are they paying you?
They are, Oma.
Eh?
The more I use my MTN, the more points I get. And I can use those points to get airtime, data, and even discounts at shops and restaurants.
Hey, so that is why all of you are always pressing your phones. And you won't tell us, so that we too we can enjoy some.
Oh, ma.
There's always more to enjoy with MTN Rewards. Just keep talking, testing, and browsing all day, every day to collect your points and use it to redeem amazing offers and discounted freebies right away. There's so much available for you. So dial *550# and get your reward today. Let's go everywhere you go.
Kweku, have you heard what they are doing on MTN?
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Water is needed all day, all night. So remember Syntex tank all day, all night. 7 years warranty. Select any color for free. In no the crack, in no the spoil. Call Accra on 0244 335 168. Kumasi 0505 555 666. Syntex tank. A strong, a tough. Water is needed all day, all night. So remember Syntex tank all day, all night. 7 years warranty. Select any color for free. In no the crack, in no the spoil. Call Accra on 0244 335 168. Kumasi 0505 555 666. Syntex tank. A strong, a tough.
Choboy! We have a new leader in town. Obiarentie. Amanfo. Madam was Sibebre. When him say my baby, maybe mamu more charcoal for whiter teeth. More charcoal. Not only that, maybe mamu lemon. More lemon. Zinc for fresher breath. More zinc. And fluoride for stronger teeth.
Introducing the new President Charcoal packed with more power with a combination of charcoal and lemon for naturally whiter teeth. Grab yours now. This advert is FDA approved.
Hello, my name is Mami Akuya, an entrepreneur and a mother of 2. My work keeps me busy most of the time and sometimes it takes me away from my family. But the safety and health of my family is very important to me. As a working mother, I cannot afford to take any chances when it comes to matters of health. That is why I signed up for a family health care plan from Equity Health Insurance. My family and I have access to over 700 hospitals, clinics, opticians, dentists, pharmacies, and diagnostic centers across the length and breadth of Ghana. With Equity Health Insurance, I no longer have to worry about medical bills. Anytime a member of my family visits a hospital, Equity Health Insurance has got my family and I covered. What about you? Who has got you covered?
Call Equity Health Insurance on 050-660-7910 and talk to them about your family health needs now. Visit equityhealthinsurance.com for more information. Equity Health Insurance, here for you.
Welcome back to Business News on News Tonight. I am James Shen. First off, Ghana's inflation is expected to end 2024 at 20.9% versus a closure by the African Development Bank captured in its 2024 African Economic Outlook. There is more in First Business Desk report.
The report revealed that the youth unemployment in the country was rising. It's therefore called for reinforcement of Ghana's structural transformation needs. Productivity has stagnated in services, the dominant employment sector, and is rising only slowly in industry and agriculture. Again, agriculture's employment share declined from 53.9% in 2007 to 29.8% in 2019, while industry's share rose from 14.1% to 21%. The services share also rose from 31.9% to 49.2% over the same period. To fast-track the structural transformation, the report said Ghana must enhance its competitiveness by easing infrastructure bottlenecks, accelerate agro-industrialization by strengthening skills development, value addition, and private sector development. Additionally, it must create a policy framework for technology adoption and innovation.
And that was a Business Desk report. The World Bank's latest Global Economic Prospects report has revealed that global economy is expected to stabilize for the first time in 3 years in 2024. According to the World Bank, global growth is projected to hold steady at 2.6% in 2024 before edging up to an average 2.7% in 2025 to 2026. That is well below the 3.1% average in the decade before COVID-19. The forecast implies that over the course of 2024 to 2026, countries that collectively account for more than 80% of the world's population and global GDP will still be growing more slowly than they did in the decade before COVID-19. Overall, developing economies are projected to grow 4% on average over 2024 to 2025, slightly slower than in 2023. Now, let's do some other stories. And the multi-dimensional poverty index report from the Ghana Statistical Service has revealed that the Greater Accra region recorded lowest incidence of a poverty rate of 11.7%. The Savannah region recorded the highest with 49.5%. The incidence of poverty refers to the percentage of people who are multi-dimensionally poor. This affects areas such as health, education, and employment status of people. In an interview with Joy Business, government statistician Professor Samuel Kwabena attributed the disparity to differences in development across areas such as education, health, and living conditions.
You'll find pockets of areas within the region that are not performing well. What we really want to do with this is even go beyond the regional port, which is giving us the performance of each district, and narrow down on each district and see the locality level variations that we have. So, and we are pretty sure that we're going to see also intra-district, as we see in intra-regional disparities when it comes to multidimensional poverty.
Professor Samuel Kwabena as the government statistician at the Ghana Statistical Service. Now, a report by the Third World Network Africa on the impact of the Planting for Food and Jobs and One District, One Factory to the structural economic transformation of Ghana has shown that low credit opportunities and lack of effective targeting are major challenges facing the program. According to the lead researcher, Dr. Faustin Obin, the lack of targeted credit support deprived mainly smallholder farmers from full participation in the program, affecting output. Dr. Obin outlined the findings at a workshop organized by the Third World Network.
Because over the years, the cost of the inputs of the PFJ increased, we saw that many small-scale farmers who could not access the inputs without some credits could no longer use the package. The package is an improved seeds with a fertilizer, but also with extension support. For many of these improved seeds, they are heavily dependent on fertilizers because they suck a lot of nutrients. And so without being able to afford the fertilizer, even if you afforded the seeds, your productivity would not likely increase. We all see what the slight increase in import bills meant for fertilizers within the PFJ. So we need to have a long-term plan, improving productivity with locally available materials and only supplementing it with a slight fertilizer or mineral fertilization that we can afford.
And that's a lead researcher at the Third World Network, Dr. Faustina Obin. And that's all for Business News on Newsnight with me, James Ishen. Over to you, Evans.
James, thank you very much. You're still live here on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, and I will be sharing your thoughts with the rest of the world pretty shortly here on Newsnight. 05511119997. A few of your messages already on the stories you've heard so far, right from top story till now, and this one on the subject of the free SHS and ISA says the forthcoming free SHS legislation should mandate the government to allocate sufficient funds to support the program and also require the Akufo-Addo Dr. Bawumia administration to settle all outstanding payments owed the schools since the 2020-2021 academic year up to the present time. That's his view on that particular subject. Also, on the subject of the ongoing protests and the strike that we've seen undertaken by workers of the NIA, this one from Asokwa Collins, it says, Evans, today I sent my nephew to one of the NIA offices in Kumasi to register his Ghana card, but all the offices I visited were closed. We need the card for urgent application, but we couldn't get any place to register. It's because the NIA staff, they've called a nationwide strike, which is beginning to bite. Nana Ekwamo Boateng in Ablikuma Central says the minority in parliament can go and sleep in court even before Atuforsen gets to court. The constituents who voted for them will show them the exit come December 7th, is his view there. You're still live here on News 90. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. I want to take you to the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, now where the Ghana Medical Association have today been making a strong case to the Vice President and the flag bearer of the MPP for an urgent intervention to save Ghana's second largest referral health facility, the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital. Now, the GMA says their members have been compelled to treat patients in chairs following years of neglect and congestion. Now, the recent project launched by Asante Hene to raise $10 million to renovate portions of the hospital is yet to really see any real progress. Now, sharing their frustration when the Vice President met professional groups in the Ashanti regional capital, the head of the association, the GMA there, Dr. Pakwesi Bedu, said there is a need for government to expand the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital to absorb the pressure and improve health care.
For the first time, thank you to our CEO, usually what they did was to hide the mess at the emergency because of overcrowding. And the reason being that almost Konfanoche takes care of so many of the regions, 6, 7, 8 regions in the country, 12 regions in the country. And I'm sure they saw and they will collaborate what we saw, and I'm sure some of them felt so nauseating. Some threw up, and they will confess to you. And that is the environment as health workers we find ourselves. We talk of Agenda 111, and my former chief executive is here. We've had our debates, Dr. Nsiansari. Of all the Agenda 111 you are building in the 12 regions, Konfanoche still will serve as the referral center to them. The people who will be voting for you are not just those here. They are the patients who are sitting in chairs for 2 days. We have 2 hospitals that are complete or almost complete, and they have facilities which Konfanoche, which is the major referral